Crapo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I join with everybody else, Mr. Horowitz, for thanking you and your team for the work that you have done here. I'm going to go back to an issue that's been talked about by many of my colleagues today, and that is this question of bias. And actually, I want to start by going back to June of 2018, when you were last here before the committee. And when I asked questions of you at that time, I talked about your findings then with regard to bias. The specific focus that I recall there was Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, and the information that's already been well presented here about what I consider to be the undeniable bias that they had against the President Trump. At that time, you made similar statements to those you made today, which is that you did not find bias in the decisions that you were evaluating in that report. But as I went through that with you, I think that you also confirmed that you were not saying that there was no bias by those who were involved in making decisions. Rather, you were saying you could not prove that that bias was a factor in their management of the activities they engaged in on behalf of the FBI. As I understood it, you said that there was bias, but in fact that you had asked them whether their bias influenced their work performance. They had told you that it did not, and you had no contrary evidence to dispute that. Is that correct?
Let me clarify. Let me explain. We found that those text messages evidence bias, and what we ultimately found was that other people were involved and made many of those decisions, not them. And that was the base, not because we didn't know whether they were biased. Those texts evidenced bias by them.
All right.
The question was the other individuals who we didn't have text messages for, otherwise in evidence of bias by those individuals.